afternoon to all of you. Great to see such a nice crowd, group of people, professionals just before lunch. So we are, in between you and the lunch. So you have to bear with us. Interesting topic, sustainability or purpose and profit, right? So we all talk about profit as finance people. It's core to us, it's core to our heart. The question is purpose also important for the finance people? And in our panel, we'll explore this today, that how purpose is important to us, close to us, and how do we manage the purpose? The purpose can be manifold. All companies have some purpose. Purpose can be to delight the consumers, purpose can be indigenize, purpose can be make in India, purpose can be to do EV vehicles versus polluting vehicles. So there can be any purpose. Purpose is wide, and we are within the purpose going to explore the ESG part, the sustainability part, the environment, social, and governance. These three pillars of sustainability. So anybody can tell me environment? What do you think of environment? What comes there in your mind when we say environment? I'm going to engage you guys, okay? So environment, carbon emission, absolutely. Anything else? Carbon emission is great.
Green
energy, absolutely. Waste management, right? The traditional waste management, scrap management, waste management, all these are areas of environment side of it. When it says social, sorry?
Safeguarding natural resources.
Safeguarding natural resources, wonderful, absolutely right. How do we safeguard natural resources? Is it great to use thermocol, or can we use some alternate material to save, our natural resources? Social, and by the way, we're going to link all this to finance. That's the purpose of this session. What is social in this? Anybody? CSR is the traditional social part, but in ESG sustainability side, when it says social, it's a little different. Society is definitely one, community, society. Quality, okay. So from customer point of view, quality. I'm sorry? Absolutely, D&I. I'm glad you talked about it, ma'am. Diversity and inclusion is very much a big pillar of the social side of it. And how does finance play a role in that? Yeah. Employee welfare, which is D&I is part of that pillar. Community, of course, I heard that. And customer engagement we talk about. The last pillar is the governance piece. So environment, social, and governance. Let's explore governance. And then we'll hear from two gentlemen next to me on all these subjects. Governance. Reporting. Fantastic, absolutely. Sustainable reports. And Pawan is here who's going to tell us all because he's from the carbon industry and a lot about reporting. And Naika, you can also ask Ganesh a lot about reporting. What else? When you say governance, and when we look back home, we are discussing on the side, standing there, talk to our children, they are much closer to these subjects than we ever were. They will not probably work in a company which does not believe in these concepts. So what else?
Regulatory compliance.
Compliance, absolutely. Regulatory compliance, ethics. I was looking for this word ethics. And there's one more thing left which I'm looking for, which is very common in the corporate world, and when the SEBI goes after people, when you hear the regulators going after people, they say governance, conflict of interest. Fantastic, conflict of interest. So these are the areas which ESG really belongs to or means, and overall we also call this sustainability. And as finance people, as companies responsible, whether we're talking to customers, talking about vendors, talking about employees, everybody is looking at these parameters, indicators, how our company is doing. Do we believe in this or not? And to explore this, I'm going to talk to two gentlemen here. To my right is Pawan. Pawan has 30 years plus experience, currently Epsilon Carbon Chief Financial Officer. But before that, he has management experience and finance experience in many, many companies, including, I'll let Pawan talk about it in a bit. And to my extreme right is Ganesh, who's the Nykaa CFO. And again, 30-year experience in managing host of companies, including Godrej and Pidilite. And we will, of course, talk to Ganesh as well. So while you introduce yourself in the first question and then answer the first question, what do you think, in your view, Pawan and Ganesh, ESG and why it is so important in the life of all of us? Why do you think we should spend time today talking about ESG, and how does it link to finance world? A bit of your introduction, and then we can explore the subject.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. So I am Pawan Trivedi. I started my corporate career way back in 1995 with Tata Motors, and being in Tata Group almost 17, 18 years. Then I moved to steel industry, which is the Usha Martin. I also work in the communication sector, which is the Reliance Communication. I work in finance industry, Srei Finance and Tata Motor Finance as well. And now I am working in the chemical industry, which is Epsilon Carbon. So I had experience in multiple industries per se. Now coming to the ESG, and I think ESG was in one form or other was there right at the beginning of my career. I mean, and that's all is everybody's career. When we are talking about the sustainability, earlier the sustainability used to be the financial sustainability, because that was the more important, how the company can going to survive. And that is why a lot of reserve used to come in the Company Act just to keep that money in the company's account for continuous sustenance of the company in case of bad weather. Over the period when the financial prudence has come on industrial perspective, those rather words or rules becomes little extraneous point of view, because people started saying that I can manage my finance well, why we need someone to govern that. So that's how the government started taking out themselves and industry become viable or taking care of their own sustenance and financing. Now the ESG per se becomes little more comprehensive word. It's not only the financial sustainability, it's a sustainability of the organization as such on overall perspective. So if you see in India, it has also been adopted over the period, but I think in most of the mature market, that was much earlier than in India has come into picture. If you see from the financing angle, it provides us the holistic approach or holistic solutions. So right from the environment, because if the environment is going to impact, the organization is going to be impact to us, and that's how the continuation of sustainability per se is going to come on the risk. So that's a risk assessment what we used to do for as a part of the finance for the organization. I think these factors are very relevant or very relevant. Sometimes even the business also creates that level of risk. In some business, these risks become much more important or much more relevant. Lot of people must be remembering sitting here the Bhopal gas incidents. Huge risk. Some outside India company working in Indian environment typically not manage that well in terms of the factory or and created a huge amount of the risk, and now the company has gone, vanished. There's one point of time, there's a large company and gone nowhere. So these are the things which is relevant from the organization perspective. Finance being the stakeholder of ensuring the sustaining of the organization, I think it's a larger role to play to remain in the forefront of managing these ESGs. I think that is what my say on this.
That's a very important point which you're making, that finance, people look at finance person as the custodian of company's sustainability. And for company sustainability, this sustainability, ESG, becomes important, right? Ganesh, want to add?
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think quite a lot has been covered in terms of why ESG, what does it mean when we say sustainability, etc. But let me probably start by just introducing myself. in fact, as I was listening to Pawan, in terms of our personal journeys, a bit of an uncanny similarity, if I can say. I started my journey with the Godrej Group, more than 20 years with Godrej, then moved to pharma, back for a shorter stint again with FMCG, then automotive sector, and now in multi-brand e-commerce retail. So that's a little about me on the personal front. And as Pawan mentioned, way back in 1995 when I joined the Godrej Group, things like ESG, etc., it was a far cry. Nobody had probably even started thinking along those lines. But the good fortune of having started my career with Godrej, and when I look back, quite a lot of what is being talked about right now was being practiced by Godrej way back in those days, and much before I joined as well. So we also have the mangroves, right? Vikhroli is famous for that. Godrej owns a large tract of land over there, and the group, the Godrej family, has taken a conscious decision that they will leave it untouched. There are other parts which they are developing in terms of real estate, etc. Mangroves, they have taken a conscious call that they will leave it untouched. What is it? Today we are thinking about ESG, we are thinking about sustainability, etc. What matters is it in our DNA, and is it something that we from our inner self want to be doing? So ESG is not something to be looked at as compliance. Yes, rules will come in and therefore you have to comply with that, etc. What's very important when we look at ESG is it's a mindset. It's not really a compliance thing. So the way I would look at it, when we look at ESG journey, because I've been with Godrej, which is a more than 100-year-old organization, versus now currently Nykaa, which is a 13-year-old organization. I do see a lot of similarities in terms of where the mindset is, where the aptitude is, willingness to do, etc. Obviously, Godrej would be at a very different stage in terms of their evolution versus a Nykaa. So that's besides the point. What's the strategic intent? What is the tone at the top? That's really what matters. So the way I see it is in terms of the ESG journey itself. Let us say I am a startup. For me, ESG is aspiration. I want to do it, but yes, there are limitations in terms of how much I can contribute, etc. But yes, from a sustainability point of view, you need to make those baby steps. You need to start on day one. You can't say, let me become big and then I'll think about it, right? So that's the first stage where it's really aspirational. From there, it becomes compliance, saying that, okay, there is a law of the land, ESG is important, and therefore I need to comply with it. From there, you actually get into performance. How do you make ESG work for you? Can you take realistic goals, ESG targets? What are your 3-year targets, 10-year targets, etc.? How do you go about achieving that? Then the eventual piece, what anybody would target is actually something which gives you a competitive advantage. What I'm trying to bring out over here is that this is not something which you do outside of business. It's part of your business. And end of the day, as the previous speakers mentioned as well, what is important is long-term sustainability. Just as human beings, we are saying maintain your good health for your longevity, right? Eat good food. All of this, why is it that we do? Because we are looking at long-term sustainability. Same thing applies for business. ESG is not something which you do outside of business for compliance. ESG is something which you need to do for your own long-term sustainability. That's really the mindset I would like to bring to the table.
Thank you, Ganesh. This brings me to a point that, ESG is going to be part of our life. We are finance people. We've been told to maximize profits. Look at the ROI, look at the, PAT, and, maximize profits. So is ESG a cost center? Because, it looks like a cost center to me. Is it really a cost center? How do we change a mindset that this is not a cost center? It's something which we should look beyond this just being a cost center.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid and key question which Neeraj has asked. The way I would look at it is, we can't look at ESG either from the point of view of is it a cost center, and as an organization should I be looking at profit centers. ESG without any doubt is actually a value generator. So I would rather say we should look at it as a value center. Let me give a couple of examples. So all of us are talking about energy efficiency, etc. It may call for some investments, but there are returns in it, right? Now, again, there is value in it for the organization in terms of cost savings. There is value in it from an environment perspective. That's one thing. Waste elimination, waste reduction. These are also things which give both monetary benefits as well as sustainability benefits. Then there would be elements which on the face of it one may think is an immediate cost. But here again is where the sustainability element comes in. You are actually looking at it from a longer period of time. So things which hit your P&L cannot always be seen as costs and therefore they are cost setting in, which is where that mindset issue which I mentioned a while back comes into play. You are actually making an investment, right? So the way we look at it, again, taking a personal example, and since we were talking about our respective children and education, etc., do we look at it saying that, ठीक है, बच्चों को पढ़ा रहे, so it's a cost we are incurring? No, it's an investment, right? You have future in mind. So that's really the key, and therefore ESG, I would say, is more of a value center rather than a cost center or a profit center.
I think it's a great point being made that our mindset needs to change from cost or profit to value. Is the value being generated for the stakeholders or not? And ESG investments create value for society, for employees, for vendors, for customers, for consumers, and for all other stakeholders, including government and the country. So I think, thank you, Ganesh, for this insight. Pawan, I'm going to come to you. Your company has done a lot of work around sustainability, including, defining metrics and sustainability report. Can you share some insights on what does this sustainability report mean to you? What do we learn from, what is a sustainability report? What do we include in it? How do we calculate? And what are some kind of metrics which we can include in a sustainability report?
Yes, sure. So let me just give the idea about our business model, and then we can correlate what exactly I am saying. So we are in manufacturing of carbon black, which is used in rubber industry, primarily in the tire industry, which works as a binder of rubber, provide that level of strength. We also manufacture the pitch, which is going to the aluminum industry, and that provides the anode for alumina to melt and create that aluminum. And third business where we are in the anode manufacturing for the EV battery. So technically outside China, we are the only company in the world who has qualified on that by the big cell manufacturer, and we are in the process of discussion with them. So this is with this background. Sustainability is very relevant for us because our business model technically calls for that level of important activity. And I'll tell you that how we are creating the entire ecosystem around us for the business where we are in. So let's take the example of first. We are making the carbon black. Carbon black is used, sold to the tire manufacturer. So let's say MRF, Yokohama, C8, etc. are buying the tire carbon black from us. They manufacture the tire. Tire is sold in the market, and after end of the life of the tire, it creates a certain level of waste. And this is what the target recyclability that we are keeping in mind. We are putting a plant where we are going to recover the carbon from this. We call it a Terra Black. This is a brand that we have created out of that. So we recover the carbon black from there, give back again to the same manufacturer. So MRF is going to take carbon black again from here as a part of this. So that's how the initiative, the circularity that we are talking about here. We also have one plant in Bangalore where we are recycling. This is 10,000 ton capacity plant. There we are recycling the battery. So let's say Ola or Ether or even the cell manufacturing what we are doing, after 2 years of the cell phone, you see the battery where it goes. That is the things that we are recycling, creating the black mass out of this. Black mass has cobalt, nickel, etc. mineral in that. That is being used again in the manufacturing of the cell. So then again the recyclability plant that we have. So other than main plant, which is the primarily product, we are also creating a plant to ensure the recyclability of this. And that's how when we have a core, the recyclability or the ESG in our business model itself, this will become much more important to create the entire ecosystem, and that is what the report concept has come in. Last 2 years we are releasing this report. It's almost 98 pages, 95 pages report, where we talked about, one first is what is our ESG model. So if you see in the world, there are a lot of ESG model which exist. As an organization, we adopted the UN ESG model, which is a 17-point model, which almost all UN national countries has adopted that. This is 2015 it was introduced. Again, the UN is going to discuss from 2030 onwards. This is a 15 years window which has been given to the country. So out of these 17 points, we have taken 6 points, and out of these 6 points, we have identified 20 metrics. So that's how these 20 metrics we are following, measuring, and improving on. So there is a value which you will find in 22-23, there is a value in 23-24, now we are working in 24-25. So what typically metrics is, one is the same, what we talk about recyclability. We also have metrics on NOx, that because some air pollution also when we are producing is there. The carbon, what we are emitting carbon, that also is there. Some of the, other than the normal carbon dioxide, we also, let's say, put certain gases in the environment, which typically we are burning it out. Now what we have done, we put a power plant to use that gas and generate the electricity. So a lot of these things we have done. So almost this, and the social side, we have the diversity as a part of employment. We also have certain level of welfare measures. Attrition is one of them. That idea is to do the certain level of engagement with the employees so that people can remain in this business. On corporate governance perspective, I'll give you the example. We are a private limited company. There is a lot of relaxation compared to the listed companies applicable to us. But we imposed that other than the SEBI regulated requirement, all other rules of the listed we will follow. So we have almost 6 committees. One is the board committee, and the audit committee. So actually from the company perspective, other than the board, nothing is required. But we have audit committee, we have 5 different committees, which is the remuneration committee, project committee, and so on and so forth. So idea is to create that level of governance as a part of the G. So we don't only see the number, we actually run our business with that particular model. How it is impacting? So the impact, and that's what coming, that what is the reason of doing this, is there is really a benefit. He's talked about the value creation, is really is going to give any value or not. I'll give you example. Today the ESG is certain level of hygiene for the big customer to buy the product from you. I am talking about more on the B2B segment. Because when they are talking about their own sustainability, they are seeing that whether the vendor of theirs are also have that level of sustainability in the picture or not. Our business is where the tire, let's say tire manufacturing, is a long down approval process because it's a huge safety risk for the tire to burst in the car, etc., etc. So when they come for approval or discussing, all these norms are really seen by them. In the aluminium also, if you see the US company comes for approval or Middle East company comes for approval, they see all those metrics, value and all. And sometimes they go beyond what is written in the paper. So let's give example. We are talking about saving in the electricity. There's a one matrix in the overall things. This is 2 years we are talking about certain level of improvement. That the consumption of electricity is going on by putting X measure, Y measure, etc., etc. We also have our housing colony in Karnataka. They visited there and they realized the similar level of measure has not been put there. So the question or the observation come that you also need to put these things in this area also. Because sustainability means the whole business model needs to sustain. If the housing is a part of the employee who are going to be there with you on the long term perspective, similar nature of things needs to be there all along. So I think that's how the whole environment is looking on this. Today this is becomes to a certain extent way of business. Your customer is going to look to you that you need to have this measure, and that's why it becomes a little more hygienic in nature. If you are maybe you will get or not get something on this, but definitely you are going to lose if you don't have on this. I think that is what is the message for the ESG.
Thank you, Pawan. Couple of questions, Ganesh, for you. I think we've heard a lot about metrics. Let's move on from metrics to, your views on employee retention. Do you think ESG plays any role in employee retention? My first question. And second question is, does ESG play any role in attracting investments? So employee side and the investment side. Is there a role which ESG, is playing?
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks, Neeraj, for asking that question. So my present organization is a very young organization. So Nykaa, while it's a household brand today, it's all of 13 years, right? So we are a young organization. And that's reflected across the organization in more than one way. So 78% of our workforce is under 35, right? 78% of our workforce is under 35. So in a sense, it's also a reflection that a lot of young talent Nykaa has been able to attract. Now, again, from a ESG perspective, and which is where Neeraj's question is, I would say that many things like, say, diversity in terms of gender diversity, it's something probably it comes naturally to Nykaa. 43% of Nykaa's workforce is women, which probably would be amongst the highest across the country. Reason why I say it comes naturally to Nykaa is where the mindset comes in. So if you ask Falguni, who is our CMD, she would say, I'm not really doing anything special or specific from a gender diversity point of view. It's something which naturally comes to the organization, right? And again, going back to Neeraj's question in terms of how does ESG come into play, is it important in attracting talent, etc. So it's not just about gender diversity, right? There is pay parity. Then when we look at the senior leadership, 60% of the senior leadership is also under 45. So it's a fairly young leadership. In fact, I would count among the oldies in the organization, having got into my 50s. So it's actually a mindset thing more than anything else. And the current generation, and here I'm not just talking about the consumers of Nykaa. Yes, consumers of Nykaa, they would look at sustainability, they would look at ESG parameters, goes without saying. Even from the employees, there are elements which will attract you to a particular organization, right? So, and I'm just to draw a parallel. If each one of us, or for that matter, the workforce, has a choice saying that I would be associated with a sustainable organization versus I would be associated with a highly polluting. So yes, somebody may be in a polluting industry, but what are they doing from a sustainability perspective, what are they doing on the environment front, etc., becomes important. So I'm just drawing a distinction in terms of not industry, but the mindset and what the organization does. Obviously, it goes without saying that anybody would want to get associated with an organization which thinks sustainability as opposed to somebody who doesn't. And this is especially true for the younger generation. And that's something which I'm seeing firsthand at Nykaa. Now, the second point in terms of attracting investments. Again, being a listed company with a lot of institutional investments, both domestic as well as foreign institutional investments, increasingly what I'm seeing is more and more of the investor community are much more focused on what is the organization doing from a sustainability perspective. Now, there are also a few investors, while I may not take their names over here, who have been very open in their conversation saying that, yes, we love to be associated with Nykaa because we see you doing a few things from a sustainability perspective, and we are very clear if an organization is not taking ESG seriously, then we are not going to invest in that organization. So there are a set of investors who have even gone to that extent. So things like board composition, committees composition, something which Pawan mentioned. Then in terms of inclusivity and diversity, of course, goes beyond gender diversity. And things like pay parity, what are working conditions for employees. If you look at a Nykaa office, do all Nykaa offices look similar? Do you have a case where one Nykaa office, because it's a head office which is looking exceptionally good and something which is a back office is looking exceptionally poor? Do you have that kind of situation? All of these things become important, not just from an investor perspective, but if I'm an employee working in Nykaa and I were to see this kind of disparity, then what's the image I'm going to carry about the organization, and would I want to be associated with that organization, right? That's an obvious question each one of us will have in mind. So again, at the cost of repetition, it's all a mindset thing. Just as we are saying, we need to follow traffic rules. Yes, if we break a traffic rule, there is a penalty. But let us say the proof of the pudding really is I'm driving at 2 a.m. There is no traffic cop standing over there. There is a red signal. For a moment, let's say there is a red signal. Then am I following traffic rules, or am I saying nobody is watching? How does it matter? It's as simple as that. ESG is something which each one of us need to be very cognizant of, need to be very aware of, and we're very committed to, rules or no rules. There's no substitute to it.
Thank you, Ganesh. We're going to take 5 more minutes, I think. Says time up, but let's take 5 more minutes. I want to just do a poll here. Show of hands. How many of you have been questioned by your children, by your siblings, or at home, and you had discussion about sustainability, which is the social angle, the governance angle, or the environmental angle? How many of you would have experienced this at home? Many people. So if this is I'm seeing about 50% hands going up in a flash. 50% people in this room are talking about sustainability at home. Companies would be even more. Workplace would be even higher, because there are people outside the family involved in that. Consumers, customers, government, everybody's involved in that. That shows that it is going to be part of our life. Whether we like it or not, we should start liking it, because it has a very nice angle to it, which is betterment of society. We talked about it earlier. Both of them talked about that. I think if we want to contribute, improve to the, bring improvement in the world in whatever little way, whether by, doing better climate management, or, not leaving a net carbon footprint, or improving gender diversity, or not doing wrong things on the street, or following the rules of the law. So I think it's an important subject, and we as investors, we as companies will not be able to attract investment either, forget the employees, if we don't really follow these basic, these have become basic. As finance people, we started with bookkeeping, became business partners, and now evolving to something totally different. We talked about digital AI, sustainability is very, very different world for us as finance people, and we need to evolve. And this is one of the evolution points which we are seeing today in terms of sustainability. Before we do the closing remarks for both gentlemen, any quick questions anybody has? Can also catch us at the lunchtime. I think that'll be easier. But if you have any quick question, just raise your hand. Or I'll just hand over to them for the closing comments. Okay. I think let's do the closing comments. Pawan, first you, and then Ganesh. You. Thank you very much. Thank you all of you.
I think I'll put one more point on this. So if you see the worldwide, financing is very essential for any business to grow. At any stage, finance is required, whether it's a growing company, growth company, or maybe any company expanding. What I'm seeing in the last at least 10 years or so, the more and more funds are coming for those companies who are in these initiatives or doing something on the ESG side. Environment become much more important. The question is whether we are getting that money at a cheaper rate, whether the rate advantage is there or not. That might be a debatable topic. but at least that avenues are available. So if the resources are finite, at least out of these finite resources, some are clearly earmarked for that particular activity. And hence it's important, if we really want to grow and want to tap that money, we need to demonstrate these level of initiatives. I'll tell you that we as an organization also got a particular engagement with the Stancy as a bank, where we provided a certain level of unique solution on the ESG, and the funding has happened on this, where we have committed to them, and them is a bank technically, but that commitment is linked with the reduction in the interest. So that way there is a commercial value attached to that improvement. So one, we are improving, we have taken a target for improvement, and even the outside world is rewarding you by reduction in the interest rate if you achieve it 2 years down the line. It's our target, our timeline. Bank has bought this as a commitment and agreed to reward in 2 years down the line. I think that's a one options or area which is very important. This is one in itself, but I think the similar level of things are going to happen. There is a lot of activities which are going to happen. Multiple funds are earmarked for that activity. I'll talk about the reverse little. Might be even the local banks, what we are saying, because today not much opportunities are there. They are funding to even the other businesses also. But maybe the people start expecting certain level of work on this. So the idea is, before it becomes really mandatory for the most of the areas, let's start working on this and start demonstrating certain level of activity. Time necessarily is going to come 5 to 10 years down the line, where this becomes much more important from the government of India perspective, because there is a lot of pressures in the overall world to ensure these level of, let's say, matrices are being achieved.
Thank you. Ganesh, your comments?
I would probably keep it very short, because I'm aware this is the last kind of comment which is standing between all of you and lunch. There used to be a joke sometime back when ESG was still picking up, and invariably most organizations, it would be the finance guy who was being made the charge, and therefore there was a joke going around in one of our professional groups saying that if you can't fit it anywhere else, give it to finance. But then, as this area is developing, increasingly each one of us are realizing that it rightly sits in the finance domain, not just from the perspective that there is an end-to-end visibility which naturally finance guys have, or as Neeraj mentioned, finance becomes a custodian of assets, and you want assets, not liabilities, right? And also there is a commercial angle to it in terms of green bonds and sustainable financing, which Pawan mentioned. Then, as custodians of assets, as CFOs, as financial professionals, even risk management, risk mitigation, all of these are important areas where organizations, investors, various other stakeholders are taking increasing focus. So it's actually a very interlinked and intertwined area, and from that angle, I would say, as finance professionals, it is imperative on all of us to also encourage our respective organizations to take the ESG framework to the next level, because that's really where we will have a future. There is no future without ESG.
Thank you very much, both of you. I think we hope we've kind of provoked a thought in your mind about sustainability. Idea was to leave a thought in your head that this is something which we all need to be aware of, learn, and grow with it. I think that's what we heard from both of you as well. So thank you very much. Appreciate your being here today. Thank you.